So at least.
So you're ready then? Call meeting to order. We'll have the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Zuber.
Here.
Bruner.
Here.
Farnham.
Here.
Elsley.
Here.
Patrick. Here. Voigt.
Here.
Janice.
Here. We've all looked at the minutes of January 14, 2015 meeting with the corrections made on December 1st, made to the December 1st, 2014.
Move their approval.
Second. A motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 5, claims against the county.
Make a motion to pay that.
A second.
Second.
So a motion to second to pay the claims against the county. All those in favor by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. County board members' claims.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second to pay the county board members' claims. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public comment. Seeing none.
5-second rule.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to clarify my comments during one of the previous board members where I called for the removal of 911 board members. Specifically, I'm asking that Chairman Troy Eads, members Merle Clark and Cindy Belt be removed from that board. Mr. Chairman, as you witnessed Monday night at the 911 meeting, evidence has once again been presented that exposed the failings of the people in charge of that agency. Some who have been there since inception, and once again, we hear excuses followed up with assurances we will fix it. As you well know, I raised issue with non-compliance with 210 ILCS 50/3.7 over 4 years ago. Now with a new board member bringing the administration code to light, which directly points to the same statute I referenced over 4 years ago, it's now a priority to fix. I am grateful for that, but must ask, why did it take over 4 years to accept the law was not being followed? Over 4 years of serious liability risk to this county. The 911 director was provided the application to ensure 911 was in compliance back in April of 2013. She now claims she did not work for the Sheriff's Department and could not have been in charge of submitting the application as an excuse for 911 not being licensed. That gentleman is yet another pass-the-buck excuse, as this issue had nothing to do with the Sheriff's Office, prior or current. The administration code that Mr. Shaughnessy made them aware of is tied directly to 210 ICLS 50 section 3.7. That very section is what led to the lies by Mr. Clark and Annette Krippus 4 to 5 years ago about claiming our dispatchers were licensed EMDs when they were not. Those lies are what started the Edgar County Watchdogs. From the statute, if the dispatcher operates under the authority of an Emergency Telephone System Board established under the Emergency Telephone System Act, the protocols, quote, shall be established by such board in consultation with the EMS director. Nowhere does it mention anything about the Sheriff's Office. It specifically states the ETSB, as in they're the responsible entity. As was exposed Monday night, not only has there been no consultation with EMS medical direction to establish protocols, the majority of that board had no clue they were required to do so, and most of them basically admitted that during the meeting. The famous "we didn't know" excuse dribbled all over the table, even though I told them in 2011. They ignored their duty. Mr. Chairman, after witnessing that meeting, I am confident that you now have more than enough justification to take action and remove certain personnel from that board, as their own words have confirmed they do not know what they are obligated to do by law, in spite of the fact some of them have been there for 15+ years. It's their job to know. For that board to allow the director to claim she was not in charge of submitting the application and never being forced to explain why the application was not brought to the board points to a failure of that board, specifically those who continue to allow excuses to dominate wrongdoing. If they did not know, then they clearly are not reading the very laws they're bound to, nor are they listening to the people who are bringing these matters to their attention as I did years ago. Your 911 director is quoted in the paper as stating, "I didn't neglect doing this. I didn't have the authority." She knew about the requirements in 13 and said nothing to the board. That is neglecting her duty, just as Chief Gates pointed out. As far as having authority, why is it every time this agency gets exposed for not following the law, the same excuse gets raised? It's the sheriff's problem, not mine. This issue, by statute, is the responsibility of ETSB, not the sheriff. She was informed of that in April of 2013 and said nothing to the board. Just like she had no clue ISO requirements, and she has never met with ISO people before. That is not true, and I can prove that. During my previous ISO inspection, I personally took the ISO inspector to the dispatch office and provided the documentation to Nanette pertaining to ISO requirements. I assumed she was the one who filled out that paperwork because the review netted an ISO score of 7.07 out of 10. I have a copy of that. How can we believe that she has never had to deal with ISO who provide the records when in fact my previous audit netted a report that included a much better score in the following text? For maximum credit, emergency power supplies need to be provided and regularly tested, parentheses, 1 hour weekly under load with established documentation. Then in the 911 minutes, she states, the battery backup for the Kansas tower is actually in the works, and she said that weekly testing could be increased to meet the ISO standards. She was aware of it because she filled out the paperwork and was taking steps to fix that particular problem. ISO did not provide a 7.07 out of 10 off of some database. Those scores came from documentation that she acknowledged is a lot to go through. The fact she is filling out the paperwork supports that it's not off some database as is being claimed. If it was taken from a database, then why is she once again filling out paperwork? Mr. Chairman, when we provided justification several years ago to remove these people, we were told they would if they could, but the law won't allow it. As you know, we drafted legislation and had the law changed. Those changes passed the House unanimously, and I believe the same in the Senate, and were signed into law in either in 2012 or 13. You now have the authority, by a vote of the majority of the members elected, to remove an ETS member for misconduct, official misconduct, or neglect of office. You witnessed their admission they did not know that a 911 entity that dispatches medical calls should be licensed by the state. I pointed out the very statute pertaining to this issue a year ago, and it was ignored. Monday night, members...
You got 1 minute.
Monday night, members I referenced for removal claimed ignorance to the requirement. The same members made aware 4 years ago. Ignoring my evidence years ago and now claiming ignorance is a perfect example of neglect of office. That being the case, I ask once again, please remove Chairman Troy Eads, members Merle Clark and Cindy Belt. And for the record, Mr. Eads claims that he does know about ISO because he has worked for a company for 15 years that meets ISO guidelines, is a case in point as to why he needs to be removed. ISO mitigation is owned and managed by Verisk Analytics. The acronym ISO that we are dealing with is Insurance Service Office. The ISO that Mr. Eads deals with in his job with FedEx is the International Organization for Standardization, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Insurance Service Office. When a person attempts to defend his lack of knowledge by insisting he knows something when in fact he does not, it should be recognized for what it is. It's a lie. I've said it time and time again. I welcome the opportunity to help fix the problem. I know many have said we are the problem. I challenge you to prove the evidence wrong. It's not wrong. Please remove these people. and let's move things in the right direction. We've been over 4 years without proper licensing in this county. And there's just no acceptance of that. It's just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I've got a short one. Get this fired up. First, I want to add something to what Kirk just said. From reading the reports about that ETSB meeting, it appeared, and I wasn't there, so I don't know, but it appeared that one of the board members, Ms. Belt, was only concerned was who brought it up to anybody's attention to look into, not if there was a problem or how to fix it. And I think that's, you shouldn't be concerned about the problem, not who brought the problem forward. There's 4 other issues I want to talk about. They're older ones. I already talked about one Monday night at the airport. The issue with insurance, hangar leases. In light of, recent airport history in the last 1 or 2 years, you would think insurance would be a top priority. I believe it is for you guys. Maybe you didn't know it, but hopefully you'll get the proof of insurances in. And I still understand that, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody resubmitted for the grant application for the $800,000+. Or did you divide that up into 2 separate grants? I don't know, but I'm just wondering why that was never resubmitted and if there was a problem with qualifying for it or not. Number 3 out of 4 is, you mentioned before that you would entertain writing something, and you have acknowledged in the meeting that note 12 in the previous audit was not factual. I'm asking, once again, that you write a resolution or something to put it in the record that it is not accurate. Put it in writing. Because everybody knows D. Berger never paid for that ambulance service. Finally, June's right around the corner. Hopefully you'll have something on the agenda to talk about precincts and voter population and splitting them the way they're supposed to be. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Morning. My name is Robert Bogue. I'm an Edgar County resident. That is good morning. It's okay, guys. It's okay. I have some comments about the airport. Again, over and over again. Sorry, it keeps coming up, but that's the way it is. I wanted to talk about some FOIA results that I've had over the years and some recent FOIA results that I think are all about the airport. The grant application that John Kraft just mentioned, that in that grant application I submitted a FOIA, got a copy of it, read it, discovered that Edgar County declared there are 35 airplanes at our Edgar County airport. It's a lie. There are not 35 airplanes at the airport, never have been, in residency and flying. They also said they were delivering fuel from a 10,000-gallon Jet A fuel tank. Well, actually, they said they only had a 1,000-gallon fuel tank, and that's all they were able to pump, and as a result, they needed a 10,000-gallon Jet A fuel tank. They submitted that application in February 13, 2012, which was, I have fuel documents back to 2009, and that showed deliveries exceeded 1,000 gallons. So it's evident that just based on the fuel reports, which were obtained again by FOIA, that those are lies. I think I would go on to a little different tact here for a moment. I did some FOIA requests for recent fuel sales, and I listened to the airport manager talk about fuel sales, Jet A fuel sales. Last Monday, they said there were 5.9 gallons of Jet A fuel sold, and I think that's incredible. I would like to have seen the jet that filled their plane up did that. The fuel sales are an embarrassment when you claim that there's 5,500 gallons of fuel sales a month for 12 months in a row on your application, and then you find out that that isn't true either. That is why that $880,000 grant did not go forward and is currently being held by the FAA. They are awaiting this county's response. Go ahead and reapply. I want to go back just for a minute about the airport and some recent events. You've got a county board member, Mike Helsley, flew with Chris Patrick, Jimmy Wells, with a visit to the FAA in Springfield. Now, I had also done a FOIA request for the leases and the insurance documents in 2014. And this is when this flight occurred. At that time, Chris Patrick had not provided his insurance for his airplane, which is a condition of the lease. You've got planes you're flying, you need to provide insurance. Helsley should have known that Mike was not in compliance, Mike Helsley should have known that Chris was not in compliance with the airport lease or the insurance requirements because he's a county board member, because he's on the airport committee, because he's close friends with Chris Patrick, and if it's truly, if this is true, then Helsley should have been removed from the airport committee for not doing his job. Now, it's possible it isn't. He didn't know. If Helsley did not know that Chris was not in compliance, then the airport manager, Jerry Griffin, failed to keep the committee properly informed of the status of the lease agreements, the insurances, and even the requirements of insurance requirements, and even of a recent crash of an aircraft at the airport. Mr. Griffin is not doing his job. It's either one or the other. There needs to be a change. Of all the people that should be current on their insurance, it should be Chris Patrick. Former county board member, former airport advisory board member, chairman of that committee, and he installed Jimmy Wells, who was in a plane with him. He was flying with whom he had chosen to be the manager at the airport. He also knows the clerk quite well at the airport, and the previous clerk quite well because he assisted them in getting their jobs without having to apply for them. So,
1 minute.
of all the people that should know they need to provide insurance, it would be Chris Patrick. I understand at this past Monday's airport advisory board meeting, Chris offered to leave the airport. That's okay with me. If there's anything I can do to assist him with that, please let me know. I recommend you accept his lease termination and welcome to the party. Last thing I have here, the last several times I've been to the Edgar County Airport, the reward poster that I gave to the airport has not been up there. I'm wondering if this county board, maybe Mike Helsley, can make sure that gets posted at the airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good morning, I'll just be a second. I'm Yvonne Adwell, I'm with my husband Richard. We just want to thank the board for supporting the Edgar County landowners against the Ameren transmission line. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Item 8.
Mr. Chairman, I move we table the next 5 items under highway until our engineer is ready for them to be put back on the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to table the highway resolutions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9 is a resolution authorizing issuance of tax anticipation notes / financing.
This is a regular housekeeping thing we do every year. Sometimes we have to do it earlier than our fiscal year, but we're sitting okay right now, so it hasn't been a priority, but I would like it passed so that I do have the authority to seek bids with our local financial institutions in the event that we do need to borrow before tax monies are distributed this year.
So moved.
Second.
So, resolution authorizing issuance of tax anticipation notes / financing. This will be a roll call vote.
Zuber,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Farnham,
Yes.
Helsley,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Item 10 is officer and department head reports. Augie, do you have yours ready?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You want me to go first,
Sure.
James? Let's see. We have proofed the ballot for the April 7 consolidated election. Just a couple minor typos, but we're pretty much set to go to the printer with that. There are 104 ballot styles this spring. So when somebody calls into the office and they ask for a copy of the ballot, it's not that easy. And but we'll live through that. February the 26th is the first day that we have to be, well, it's the first day for absentee voting, if you will. That's when the absentee ballot or the applications can go out either by mail or in person, which in turn means you can do in-house absentee voting. So we'll be ready for that February 26th.
Will you still have the same degree of vote of, weekends and after hours and things like that on this election as you did on the last one?
No, a lot of the rules that were in place for last November's general election were only for that election.
Okay.
Now, there are new rules that go into effect July 1st, which were the same rules that we did last November. It's crazy how it operates over in Springfield. But so no, this is not a federal election, it's a local election, so they're a little more relaxed. As far as the number of hours we have to stay open, this, that, and the other.
Make your own rules?
Yeah, I'm going to try that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. For the record, strike that. No. So we're starting to get busy. Last month I mentioned to you that we are working on getting our land records available for online viewing. We're still working through some bugs. One of the issues is the redaction of social security numbers. We've discovered that there's a discrepancy in how that was to have been satisfied to our approval. We're working through that issue, and we want to maintain the integrity of everyone's privacy before we allow anybody to go online and search land records in the recorder's office. So I'll keep you updated on that as we move along. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Treasurer.
I'll start out with the resolution you passed about the tax anticipation. Just a reminder, I did not have to draw on last year's until around June. I always keep my fingers crossed that somehow or another we can get through a year without having to draw on it, but this year I just won't know until we see how the property tax cycle goes as far as the timeliness. On your report, as you can see, the normal numbers there as far as the funds. I will point out that Jill's not here today from ESDA. The second line that says Fund 842, bottom line, I'm sick and tired of looking at that negative amount, okay? I've had Jill look into that. What that is back several years ago, before her time, that LEPC stands for Local Emergency Planning Committee. Somehow or another, I don't know if it was a grant or what have you, the money didn't come through completely, so we had to spend the money anyway, never got reimbursed. I've spoken to the auditors. All Jill has to do is just give me a simple letterhead explaining that, and we can, for lack of better words, write that off as uncollectible revenue. Okay, so that won't happen until or later this year, maybe the beginning of next fiscal year, but that will go away, and we'll be done looking at that.
Will 842 go away?
No, 842 will be there. We can make that inactive because it doesn't, I think Jill said it will not, doesn't plan on seeing it anymore. Can't eliminate it, but I can make it inactive so it's not on the report. As far as revenues coming in, remember we lost our comptroller the middle of February, or middle of December. They had an interim one, and then a new one. Her name is Leslie Munger, and I expressed my concerns of whether the timeliness of payments would be affected. Don't want to blame her, but I have noticed that usually we have the state's attorney's reimbursement, just sometimes you have it before the end of the month for that month. Well, unfortunately, on state's attorney, the most we've gotten is November's. December's is in the mail, but normally by now we'd have February's. There's times we'll get February's at the beginning of the month. So I'm a little bit concerned. I will mention this. Also, I've spoken with Monty on the probation reimbursements. It has broken loose, meaning we've started to get probation reimbursements. We're supposed to get around $132,000 this year. Once it breaks loose, it seems like it just comes real quick. So between now and May, we should get an additional $120,000 for our cash flow. So in a perfect world, that's what we're hoping for. We will be sending out mobile home / privilege bills by the end of the month. We've got approximately 380 mobile home units in Edgar County. So that's the only thing on our agenda right now of things that need to be done. Any questions from anybody, board or?
How many mobile homes did you say?
At one time we had around 400. Now with the new law that started January 1st of 2011, whenever one changes ownership, it has to go on as real estate. And that's how it's taxed. So the numbers are coming down, and that's nothing compared to Clark County. They've got about 4 times as many as us. And I'm not bad-mouthing mobile homes. I'm just saying that's just the way it is. I don't know why they have as many much as us. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Donnie, what do you anticipate the interest being on that anticipation?
I always put that 4% on there just as a threshold. Recent years, it has been in the 2 to 2.5 range. Our local banks are very good about bidding that low. They understand that it gets into all our pockets if they're trying to make money off of us. So very, very, very reasonable. And it's such a short-term borrowing that we don't realize that much interest expense.
Do you have to pay a fee whether you use it or not?
No, our banks waive all application fees and everything so that they're saving us money. Okay. That was kind of one of the things I emphasized when I first started doing this, that they would work with us, and they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Highway Department?
Nothing at this time.
Circuit Clerk?
No, sir.
Assessor?
I do, thank you. Our 2014 tentative multiplier, we received that last week, 0.9709. We are still receiving 2014 complaints in our office through Monday, February 23rd. The Board of Review for 2014 began reviewing those complaints this past Monday. We have begun our 2015 quadrennial reassessment in the 4 northeast townships of the county. I've made the sheriff aware of the vehicle that will be out in case anyone is nervous about a vehicle being in their neighborhood. Also, I want you to be aware, we may have some rumbling from our senior citizens. We have made a decision to reinstate the annual verification for senior citizen homestead exemption. That practice was done away with 4 or 5 years ago, And once they applied and that exemption remained there until we were made aware it shouldn't be there, and we feel like too many are slipping through the cracks. So every year, we're going to be sending those forms back out again to make the senior citizen verify they still own the home, they still live there. That exemption is worth $5,000 per property. In some cases, the owner occupied should not be there either. That's $11,000 per property that should be in our tax base. So we are going to restart that for 2015. Thank you.
Dean, how about for the regular homeowner exemption? Isn't that supposed to be done on a yearly basis also?
It should be. A lot of times, we're small enough county, the assessors know you, they know you live there, and they'll go ahead and approve it for you. But we always tell people to please do that, to make sure that that exemption is in place.
But
Just
okay, but technically, that's supposed to be done every year, isn't it?
the owner occupied, yes.
Thank you. Sheriff?
One thing I have, we survived another inspection we had last week through the state. We've made a few improvements, they were happy with it. We haven't got a report back from them yet, so I'm waiting for that at this time. That's about all I have.
Thank you. Probation?
Well, I'd like to take credit for the cash flow from the state. I have very little control over it, so it should dry up. I want you to remember that part. I have very little control over it. Other than that, nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambulance service?
We're getting ready to start an EMT basic class. We have about 5 people signed up right now. We're waiting for a couple more to make sure that we have a good sized class to do. And we're going to be purchasing a brand new ambulance that will be here sometime May, June, and it's a new concept ambulance that's going to be safer for the people taking care of the patients. It's actually got a mobility track to where the paramedic or EMT in the back will be able to be seated and restrained in a seatbelt, and will be able to slide up and down the whole side of the patient. It's going to be pretty neat. And it's a new concept that's come out. It's a safe one. Kansas Ambulance actually has it already, and
It is nice.
it's going to be safer for everybody around. Because one of the biggest things in ambulance accidents is the people unbelted in the back taking care of a patient and having significant injuries from that. So we're starting the process of moving that towards a safer way for everybody.
Thank you. Are there any other office holders or heads that I've missed? Otherwise, we'll start on the committee reports. Jeff, you want to start?
Sure. On the budget, if you add in our last payroll, which I've done in a rough way because we know how much it roughly will be, we're at about a little over 19 to 20% of our budget spent, with 25% of the year gone. I would like to note that the bills were a little higher. We paid the superintendent of schools, the regional superintendent, $19,000. We also paid our annual portion from Fund 100 to Manatron of $28,000, $29,000. So those two things we'll have another installment of the regional superintendent, about $18,000 later on this year. Manatron, that's all that comes out of, well, there'll be smaller bills, but that's the bulk of what comes out of Fund 100. So that does skew it a little bit. The sheriff and I will be meeting a week from this Friday with the state's attorney on the hospital issues and prisoner health. That's at what, 3 o'clock, Jeff? 2 or 3 o'clock, or has the state's attorney told you about that yet?
I haven't heard nothing about it yet.
After the meeting, I will get with you, okay? Airport, crack sealing, contract with a firm out of Vintage, out of Tuscola, was approved on Monday night, and we'll be proceeding with that contract to get our crack sealing maintenance done so that we can move forward in other fronts. Additionally, I've been working closely, and I explained to the board Monday morning at our study session and Monday night at the airport advisory board meeting that I'm working with the state's attorney to get everything cleared up on the lease front. There's some objections by some of our lessors that we're trying to take care of. We're trying to do it in a way that makes sense and still get the job done without causing World War III. So, at any rate, we're moving forward on that. Let's see. He talked about the budget, or the audit. The audit, I talked to our auditor. He's found nothing, no large problems, no small problems. Everybody's been cooperative. He's been very pleased. He is going to have some recommendations, but he wants to wait to meet with us till obviously they're all done, and then he'll have an administrative letter. Just suggestions that we can continue to improve the way we operate, which is what we like to have. So, does anybody have any questions about any of these 4 items? Yes, sir.
Nothing on that, but I read in the paper that the state's gonna run out of money for funding the court reporters. Is that gonna affect us?
Well, if that's true, I haven't read that.
Yeah, I was in the paper the other day.
Sandy, do you have anything on, did you hear what he said?
No, sir, I'm sorry.
Would you ask her? She's the one that...
There's an article in the paper that the state is gonna run out of money to fund the court recorders by March. Is that gonna affect us?
Okay, sir, I have not heard anything, about that.
I just read it, so.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that we get...
That would have anything to do, yes, with...
Yeah, we fund our own reporters, so maybe we should look and see if we can get reimbursed.
Maybe it's just Chicago area.
I don't know. Yeah, there's...
It was in the paper.
But I appreciate you bringing it up. Sandy, I guess
Yes, I can check
if you get a
it,
chance
sir.
to, I can't imagine how that would affect us, but
I don't...
who knows? Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Carl?
One thing I had was next week we're having a sheriff's committee meeting with the sheriff, discuss several different things.
Thank you. Mike?
I was involved with when the jail inspectors came and walked through the jail, and I just wanted to note that I've seen a big improvement in the cleanliness, and it was, especially in the new part, it was a lot cleaner, a lot neater, and just a lot more tidy, and things work better since I was there the last time, which was 6 months ago. So at least we're making an effort, and talked to both the jail inspector and the jail inspector supervisor, and they reiterated time and again that they're there strictly by statute. They're not there to close the jail, and they'll do anything they can to help us if we need resources. And they have suggested, and Jeff's looking into this, and the sheriff's looking into this, that we attend a free seminar in Colorado that will help us prepare 5, 10, 15 years down the road for how we're going to get the money and the resources to put up a new jail, or resources to remodel the one we've got. And since that's at no cost to the county, I mean, they pick up everything but our gas money, drive to the airport. Why, that's an important thing to do. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Alan?
Basically, the thing on the insurance is we're also going to have a committee meeting earlier on Wednesday morning in conjunction with the public building committees. We'll talk about some general yearly goals and ideas on that and see where we're at.
Thank you. Andy?
I guess we received 3 bids on who would, the air handling unit and the heat pump went out in the judge's chamber, so we received 3 bids. The low bidder was Paris Refrigeration. They have fixed, it's my understanding, they've got the air handler fixed, so they've got some heat up there now. That's the heating portion of it. And weather permitting, when they can get it, because it's going to require a crane in the yard to lift and put the unit up on the roof. Soon the unit should be in the next couple of weeks, and he said as soon as the weather permits, they'll get and replace that unit. So that's about half done now, so that's it.
Dan?
I met with Andrew last week, everything's running fine. Actually, they're down to 7 dogs in the shelter compared to like 12 or 13 a couple months ago, so they have adopted out quite a few of them. If you have a dog, pet dog, there will be a letter in the mail that remind you to get your grading shot of the tags, so those will be going out pretty soon. Next week's the health department meeting, and we're working on specs for the heating and cooling system there in the building needs to be replaced, so Andy's helping me, and we're going to try to get a person to come in, a specialist, and give us some idea of what needs to be done, so that will be brought up at the next meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Anything else come before the meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that we go into closed session and discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of a public body and pending litigation.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, and dismissal of specific employees of public body and pending litigation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Clerk?
Please, thank you.
Out there that we're gonna need a flagger when they work out there at the airport.
Yeah, that'd be a good job.
Bring your red,
Yes,
sure.
you have to understand
Well,
when
you
you
on-
have to do parking lot at Crestwood.
We're back in
That's my job.
regular session. Is there any other business to come before this meeting? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor by the usual sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
You gotta sign some sheets?